Russia say no. We had an agreement we had an understanding that you not extend NATO eastwards. We had an understanding.
That's the objective. I mean, they've been trying very hard to do that, to push people to.
But again, you see, Eddie,
I mean, that's a provocation.
But you see, there's more. Even there was an earlier provocation. The recent history of Ukraine. It was headed, president or whatever, by a pro-Russian
president. Precisely. Now, it was not removed from elections. They were encouraged by other parties to demonstrate and remove him. And he ran to Moscow for his life.
The local politics.
So with all those circumstances, you know, Russia cannot just close its eyes, because all of these things are played up, you know. And don't forget, famously, what we are told is that Russia, to some way, Trump during his first term, he received some tacit support from Russia.
What about the role of the EU? Because they have been playing hide and seek, basically hide and seek. Today they would be cold. Tomorrow they will be hot in terms of supplying arms to Ukraine. Now the EU itself is highly divided. They are very, very divided in terms of how they should support Ukraine. Some are saying that it's costing them a lot. I mean, in terms of their economy. So, but what's the situation with Sierra Leone?
And they have to think very seriously now. Because with this oil, this cheap
oil which was coming from the other side,
Russia, now they can get oil somewhere. It's going to be very expensive. It will hit their economy, and it will reduce their ability. Whatever little support, and even in NATO, there are some members in NATO who are tacitly supporting the Hungarians, for example.
Polish, they are divided.
The shipment have said, the Slovak, they have said that Ukraine stop that oil trafficking too. We have been supplying you electricity. We will cut it off. So all of these things are happening. And don't forget, Trump, when he was talking about the defense budget in all of these countries, he nearly said he was going to leave NATO. So he's coming back. You know, he's going to watch that. You have to up your game.
No, I mean, he's very serious about that. NATO has to, they have to make additional contribution to NATO defense.
To defend themselves.
He did that during his first term.
Yeah.
And NATO.
And he has not changed his view.
No, NATO was not very happy about that. He's going to, in fact, he's saying now, he's already made the point that NATO is going to increase.
So I believe even the Western countries are hoping, secretly, even if they don't say it, that Trump will find a solution. So the obligation to do whatever little they have been doing.
See what you will do for Mr. Trump. He's a man of solution. He likes to resolve the situation. I mean, you saw his first time.
And see how he surprised
all of us. Hands-on.
See how he surprised all of us in the second term. He won the vote.
Hands down.
He won the college vote. He won the Congress. He won the Senate. It's a big surprise. You know, and some people have been saying that maybe there's something underneath we don't understand. Unfortunately, he's the first American president who will have a conviction. In world history. To never erase that is his legacy.
Yes, that's his legacy. Now he's defeated two ladies, Democrats. You remember him?
Yes,
Hillary Clinton
and
Miss Kamala Harris. Anyway, talking about Ukraine, should Mr. Zelensky, should he be worried about the Trump presidency? Because he looks a bit worried now. If you see him on social media, he doesn't look a very happy man.
But I'm sure he won't be making calculations now. Because they have been sending flyers, possible compromises and all of that, you know, because Trump tends to think that some of the territory Russia will have to keep some of the territory. They've been able to.
It's neither point.
Precisely. You see, because America themselves, they are very practical. Look at what happened in America. The French territories, the Spanish territories, and all of that. You know, he's a very practical man, Donald Trump. He's very practical. So all of these things are possible.
So where do you think this war is going to head up? I mean, Mr. Trump, like you say, he is a very practical man. He might make sure that this thing is resolved quickly, because it's costing the American taxpayer quite a lot, isn't it? Just like Mr. Netanyahu in Israel, Mr. Zelensky, he also didn't take Mr. Biden very serious, because whatever he wants, Mr. Biden was prepared to provide for him. Everything.
Well, as I said, maybe the Americans are also benefiting.
Well, the
military industrial complex
the arms industry
in America, and Biden is not able to resist them. He's not able to resist them, whatever, you know. So I think maybe that's the other problem.
Okay.
You know.
Those are the two very important issues we thought we could bring back to you, because we covered it extensively in 2024. So far, these wars have not been resolved. Hopefully, Mr. Trump will have other ideas when he takes office later this year, later in January. Lisa, let's turn to another issue. I mean, there have been some disturbing statistics at the end of the year. Sorry, we should have showed you that, but we have some problem with transmission at the moment. But we saw some statistics, the poorest countries in the world, then we have the richest countries in the world. There was the statistics that came out at the end of the year. We had that. We're going to show you, but unfortunately, we can't show you tonight. Lisa, you saw that. You've seen the statistics, the poorest countries in the world. Topping that list is Burundi. You have an analysis of that. 50-50, Sierra Leone is about almost 26 of the 50th countries, with 56% of poverty. Unfortunately, we didn't even know that Liberia, in the whole Mano River basin, Sierra Leone is the poorest of them all, apart from Cote d'Ivoire, isn't it? Apart from Cote d'Ivoire, we saw that Guinea top rank right on top. Guinea, even the Gambia, what's the other country? Talk about Guinea and
Liberia, Ivory
Coast. Ivory Coast is the only Mano River country that I should say Sierra Leone was top the list. But apart from that, Sierra Leone was very, very down on the list. I'm sorry we're not able to show you that list tonight, but we saw that list, 50 poorest countries in the world. Like I said, Burundi tops that list. And along the coast, Mano River and ECOWAS, we saw that countries like Sierra Leone, they failed totally in terms of poverty. We have 56% of poverty in this country. 56% of people are living in the poverty. Lisa, you saw that list.
Thank you, Eddie. From time to time, we have seen specialized bodies, sometimes working with journalists. They do do the surveys and come out with this list. Now, what we are talking about is the world poverty rates for 2024, and they are limited it to the 50, the one with the highest poverty rates. 50 of those countries with the highest poverty rates, out of 195 countries in the world. 195 countries. Now, in the 7 continents, Asia have got 49 countries, Africa 54, North America, Central and the Caribbean 23, South America 12, Antarctica and Australia 30. Europe, they have got 50 countries. Now, what we have seen is that in this poverty, poverty you're talking about, Africa tops the list. 60%, 29 out of those 50 countries are in Africa. That is 60%, 29 of them. Asia, only 12 out of 50, 24%. You know, Europe 0. In main North America, America and Canada, they did not feature in that list. They don't feature at all, you know. And
let's stick to Africa. Let's see what.
ECOWAS. No, I'm coming to ECOWAS now. Now, ECOWAS, 11 out of 15 countries feature
on that list.
In that poverty list. That is come to 75%.
We know those 11 countries.
75% of them, you know. And in Man River Union, as you said, 3 out of 4 feature. That is 78% poverty in the Man River Union. Sierra Leone has 56%, Liberia 50%, Guinea 43%, and Ivory Coast does not feature
at all.
So it is very important for us to see, because how poor you are, that is the poverty. Only 2024, it was not 10 years ago, it was not 5 years ago. So they are keeping track of all of those things, you know, to alarm us that we have a lot of work to do, you know, that we have a lot of work to do, indeed. So I think it's important to bring out some of these things when you see yourself.
Are you surprised that Liberia rated so high? Sierra Leone was so down, 56% of poverty. 56%. 56% living on poverty.
But of course, we all live through it, you know. You know, just I have a simple philosophy in life: you either adapt or you perish. That's what we have been trying to do. You adapt or you perish. But again, it is good for the leaders to know. You know, inflation is also very high in Sierra Leone. Now, in some countries where something like this happens, in Kenya,
take note of that.
It's an early alarm. It's an early alarm. It's an alarm bell, which shows you that things are not working right. And don't be surprised if people start demanding and raising their voices.
How do you think this is going to impact?
As I said, it is good for the leadership to address, confront this type of data. Not to make propaganda out of it. Just confront it and see what can be done, to alleviate the
poverty.
Precisely.
Look at the Gambia. I was very surprised. Gambia rated very, very high on that list.
Much higher than Sierra Leone.
I think it was small Gambia. They're doing very well in terms of elevating poverty in the country.
Yes, you know, the Gambia. I was surprised that other countries you think, for example, Eddie, Ukraine does not feature.
No, Ukraine.
It is not there.
No, it's not there at all.
It's part of fighting a war. Israel is not there. You know, it's part of fighting a war. They are not there. But the one that caught my eye is that the BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These are the 5 countries which are advertising themselves that they are the new big boys aspiring. I was surprised to find at least 3 of them in that list. Brazil is there, India, South Africa.
They also feature in the other list that I must apologize to our viewers. I mean, we should have shown you that list. There is this other list about the richest countries. America tops them all.
Precisely.
28.
So as I said,
$9.9 trillion.
Precisely. So as I said, Eddie, you see, specialized bodies are looking at all of these
those figures. Yeah, they should be able to
the inflation rates and all of that. So there's nowhere to hide. Don't think you can hide and fool your people. They will bring all this data, and in these days of internet, you know, all of these things are exposed. Take a close look at what is happening. Now, it's what your bank governor gives you, compare it also with that, and try to arrive at the proper figure, and see what can be done to alleviate the poverty. Even if people don't talk, you know, I don't want to talk like our own. but it is good for the leadership,
yeah.
to look at all of this.
I hope they can see those things.
Precisely, and take corrective actions.
Like I said, there's this other list about the richest countries in the world. They're rated by GDP, isn't it? GDP 2024. Again, I must apologize to cancel that list. And top of that list is the US, not surprising at all. They are about 29.9%, $29.9 trillion in terms of revenue, isn't it? What their richness. And second on that list, surprise, surprise, is China. China is way down, something like 20.5 trillion in terms of revenue-wise.
But
then you have South Africa again on that list, one of the richest countries.
Good, I was going to talk about that.
Talking about that.
South Africa.
And
I saw the other data. They have so many billionaires.
Billionaires, yeah.
In spite of the poverty you hear about in South Africa. In spite of the inequalities you hear, there are many billionaires. Even this Elon Musk, this man, the richest man in the world.
In America.
He was born and brought up in South Africa. You know, they have them there.
But you also saw Nigeria. Nigeria featured in the poorest countries.
And Dangote in Nigeria is the richest man in Africa.
Featured back in the richest countries.
Yes.
How is that possible?
Because a tiny group of people are monopolizing the wealth of the countries. That is what's happening. And they don't want to. You see, because the only security you have to hold on to that wealth is to make sure people don't get up one day and go to get you. That's the only security you have. You know, it's the only way. You see, otherwise things will not remain the same. They will not remain the same. You see what happened in Kenya, where Ruto has been featured.
No, we'll come into that in a minute.
Ruto and also in Nigeria.
We'll come to that in a minute.
And look at what happened in Ghana recently because of corruption. How that Vice President Mahama won easily. So there's always a kickback. Don't think as if nothing will happen.
Ghana also featured on that richest countries.
Yeah.
Which means that in these countries we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, there's a tiny number of people who are amassing the wealth of that country. That the wealth of that country is not being distributed. So that's why they featured in those lists. Ghana featured in the poorest countries, and yet Ghana also featured in the richest in terms of resource. I mean, in terms of wealth. I mean, something like
so maybe they should do a survey on the distribution of wealth.
How it is distributed. Tiny minority. Yes. We saw that in South Africa and Nigeria for places.
I was surprised about South Africa having so many billionaires. All of the problems you hear, which led to the defeat of the ANC after 30 years. The Liberation Movement, the Liberation Party.
For the first time, they have to have
precisely. So, in fact, even Ramaphosa has become a billionaire. He was a freedom fighter, and Mandela sent him, say, you go and lead the economic battle. He went there and he enriched himself.
He battled for himself.
Become a billionaire.
Well, that's Africa for you. Unisa, let's turn to another issue. We saw, we talk about this list. Unfortunately, we can't show you this list. We have this list of the richest countries. America tops that list, about $29 trillion. That's what America is worth. Then next to America, you have China. China is about 20-something trillion worth. Down on that list, we have Kenya and South Africa on that list. And yet, we have these countries also on the poorest. You might wonder,
and some of them
possible?
Some of them, their leaders are the most corrupt as well.
We'll come to that in a minute. That's the next thing we'll talk about. There's that, then this other report we saw over the weekend, Unison and I, talking about the most corrupt leaders in the world. And featured on that list, we have the Nigerian president, Mr. Tinubu. which the report says, in fact, he was a drug dealer before he became president. He was a drug dealer in America. We're not sure, but this is what the report says about it.
Himself and Kenyan president, they feature prominently on that list that they are among the most corrupt leaders in the world. You saw that report.
I saw it, Eddie. Ruto of Kenya, first he was vice president, he was a minister, he was a vice president, and now he's president. You talked about Tinubu being a drug dealer. That tag was also given to Ruto. That in fact, when he was a minister, he was suspended because of corruption and greed. You know, they are very prominent in that list because the first one is the former Syrian president Assad. Number 2 is William Ruto of Kenya, and number 3 is Tinubu. And then what happened? All of this wealth they have, they inherited a lot of problems in those countries. They did not find any proper way to solve the problems of poverty in those countries. They went and heaped all the burden on the poor people. Tinubu, by withdrawing the subsidy on fuel subsidies. This man, like the finance bill, which increased taxes all over
backfire in Kenya.
These finance bills, we are familiar with them. Every time they come out, it's trouble. For us, they increase the tax on cement, the tax on rice going up again. So they don't look at solutions which will reduce what they accrue. They look at solutions which will hit the poor people more. And the backlash in Nairobi was that the whole young people came out.
And it's still going on.
And then the government taking the people for granted. They came out in a very strong way
to arrest people.
They arrest, not only arresting them, now what they have resorted to now
in Kenya,
disappearances.
Of
people just disappear.
Critics.
Critics disappear and they are killed.
Just like in Tanzania as well. Tanzania, that's happening like that.
Tinubu, you know, the mass protests with big film artists, musicians, they were active.
Well, that report, I must say, unfortunately, we can't show you that report. This report also talked about Tinubu spending $350 million within a year on luxuries.
And when they said
in parties, and
both of them are the most traveled presidents.
They call them flying presidents.
Flying presidents. They said the most Tinubu flying presidents. So I just hope that others will just take note. You know, you just take note that people are observing.
Yeah.
They are keeping data. You know, so I mean, it is not easy. People.
I don't want to say this,
trying to make ends meet.
Kenya is highly unstable at the moment. There's a lot of instability, arrests left and right. Not only critics, opposition.
And the only reason is that the leaders, the gentry, are seeing that their wealth is being threatened by the poor young people. A lot of them university graduates, they don't have jobs. Things have become extremely difficult. And then they go out and raise this concern. But the more you kill, the more you embolden others. Like we talk about Gaza, even with all these almost 50,000 deaths, 23,000 more have signed up to fight for Hamas. So this is what it is the same thing with the Palestinians. Over 70 years, the Israelis have been bombarding them.
And yet they resist it.
And then they still continue to have fighters to resist them, you know. So the more you hit, the more people become resistant.
But our leaders don't learn this lesson. They don't learn these things at all. I mean,
well, you see, they just want fear for you not to resist, not to say anything. But you become afraid up to a certain extent. After that, you say, if I don't resist, I will die. If I resist, I will die. So to hell, let me do something.
Tinubu, he won a very controversial election in Nigeria. That his election is still a matter of controversy, and yet he hasn't put in that effort in terms of he hasn't put a program. His program immediately he starts removing subsidies, and that had a backlash in terms of protests and demonstrations all over the country.
Yes.
So there's also this level of instability in Nigeria. You would have thought that Nigeria is a very stable country, but Nigeria is very unstable as we speak.
Eddie, unfortunately for Nigeria, it's not only the economy, the security situation.
They're fighting still.
Now they have resorted to kidnappings for money.
For money, yeah.
It's a very huge business now in Nigeria.
In terms of kidnapping.
Kidnapping for ransom.
Or again, it is there because of poverty. People are not getting jobs. Young people, it's more lucrative to go and join those kidnappers. You know, I think China is also going towards that direction. Now they say there are a lot of people in China now coming up, PhD masters, they don't have jobs. Some of them are going to work as factory laborers. I saw it somewhere today. Yes, so it's a big problem. Let us look at what is happening exactly, you know. Let us see, you know, because people have been underemployed. The basic salary is not even enough to pay transport to and fro the office. It is not enough. So it will lead to criminality. It will lead to resistance.
We're talking about Nigeria on this program because we see Nigeria as big brothers, and yet the level of poverty in Nigeria today is alarming. If you look at this, talk to Nigerians, they'll tell you that most of them can't afford a full meal a day. So what I say to people in this country, that what you have here, hold on to it. Thank God for what you have, and don't think that your brother next door is better off than you. Nigeria is going through a very, very difficult period. Nigeria, this is a country, I used to go to Nigeria almost twice a year in my international position. Nigeria they have missed a lot of missed opportunities. They were exporting oil. This oil, at that time, the price of crude oil was right up there. This was the same thing Gaddafi used for his people in Libya. He used oil to rebuild Libya, old Libya. Most people were, if you didn't have a job, the state pay you straight away, honestly. If you are pregnant, the state pay you, but not for Nigeria. There were a lot of missed opportunities simply because people are greedy and selfish. The few people were amassing wealth at the expense of the majority of the Nigerians. So today, Nigeria is totally dependent on handouts.
And when there are problems, they don't prefer solutions that will affect them where they are getting money. They will reserve that one so that the money continues to flow. They will only take solutions that will affect even the poorer people. And in that vein, you feel resentment, you feel resistance. And indeed, that was how it was in Latin America. These dog states, Colombia,
Venezuela,
all of this was how it started.